Imposing such tariffs or trade barriers and restrictions of any kind are steps that I am loath to take, and in a moment I'll mention the sound economic reasons for this, that over the long run such trade barriers hurt every American worker and consumer. But the Japanese semiconductors were a special case. We had clear evidence that Japanese companies were engaging in unfair trade practices that violated an agreement between Japan and the United States. When someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time.
Okay, so that was the actual 5-minute speech, a piece of that was made in 1987. And I'll go to Ben on this. So was this fake? No. Was it real? Yes. Was it edited by Ontario, Canada, to put this out as if Reagan was against these tariffs? Yes. It was deceptive, to say the very least. This upset President Trump. But what's important to understand in this moment, what was happening in 1987 was that there were unfair trade practices happening to begin with by Japan. So before that speech, President Reagan actually put in place tariffs in that moment to balance this out, much like President Trump and what he's doing now.
Right. If you go back to when those tariffs were imposed, it's the 1983, 1984 era, and they were in response to Japan dumping its steel on the U.S. market. So this was to protect a vitally significant industry for a time with the ultimate goal of let's get to free and fair trade. And Ronald Reagan, when talking about those tariffs, emphasized fair trade as well. We live in a world today that has gotten vastly more unfair and unfree with respect to the U.S. And so that requires leveraging tools, including tariffs, to ultimately bring down the barriers for everyone, tariff and non-tariff barriers. So it's actually completely consistent with the President Trump policy, which is let's use these levers and then get to a world that is actually of free and fair trade.
So the Canadian Prime Minister didn't have much to say yesterday when this whole thing went down. But apparently, Carney's going to say something else today. Nan, is this something that can be salvaged now that President Trump is weighing in on Truth Social? He doesn't like that Reagan's words were edited in this advertisement here. You thought he would want to get a trade deal done, but we haven't seen it happen yet.
Well, Emma, he's probably, I would guess that Mr. Carney may say, look, this was posted by my colleague in government, the Premier of Ontario. It's really not a Canadian government official position. Maybe he'll try that. We do know that President Trump is eminently capable of reconsidering because he is a pragmatic deal maker. So do I imagine that this is a permanent standoff? No, I don't. And the funny thing is, when I heard that ad, I thought, well, that is a beautiful sentiment. I agree completely with everything Ben said. Tariffs are, as always, a double-edged sword. And the ultimate goal is to eliminate these barriers. But my thought was, well, golly, Canada, maybe you should follow your own advice here, because you're the ones who have been imposing absolutely dreadful tariffs on the United States for decades now.
And you got to consider, too, this is a time where the Supreme Court is considering reciprocal tariffs in this moment. Yes. And for Canada to meddle in that, so to speak, through these ads. Look, the government gets upset about social media meddling. This is actually airing on various airwaves here. It's very deceptive, and it messes around with foreign relations in the United States.
That's such an essential point. And this comes down to, at one level, at a fundamental level, defending our sovereignty. You have this case, which is going to have dramatic implications and consequences, the Supreme Court case, and you have a foreign country meddling and potentially putting thoughts in the minds of the American people, trying to influence. Is that appropriate? That requires more than a brushback pitch, and that's why you saw this response from the administration.
Information. Truth. Is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.